Hi everyone. I wanted to jump on and make a quick video about the big news story yesterday when Iran launched an attack against Israel. Um, I've been watching some of the Western media coverage and a lot of it's pretty bad. So I wanted to put some things in perspective, tell you what happened, and kind of condense it into something real quick so you can know what you need to know and get my take on it. So, first, we need to back up before yesterday. On April 1st, Israel bombed the Iranian Consulate building in Damascus, Syria. The consulate is part of the embassy complex. Both consulates and embassies are completely off limits for military strikes via the Vienna Convention. It's a violation of international law that we have never seen before. So it was huge, but it happened the same day as the World Central Kitchen airstrikes, which got a lot more press coverage. And this was equally important. I did make a video for you all about it, but while it was taking 5 hours to upload, everything started happening yesterday. So I'm just going to quick recap and then jump into that. So, first of all, you should know that embassies and consulates are legally considered to be the sovereign soil of the country that they belong to. So, legally speaking, although it was physically located in Syria, it's exactly the same as if they had gone and bombed Iran, which, it is really, really huge. Israel and Iran have never gotten along. And up until these recent events, they had never attacked each other directly like this. So, 16 people died in the embassy bombing, including a very senior Iranian general. So, while Israel has been provoking Iran for quite some time and assassinating a lot of their people, bombing their embassy was so big that they absolutely had to be a response. And up until this point, the Iranians have been very restrained. And the reasoning for that is because they didn't want to take the attention away from the genocide in Gaza. They wanted the focus to be on that. And they knew that even if Israel attacked them, if they responded, then suddenly Israel gets to jump into its favorite role, victim. And it really changes the conversation. So, however, when you bomb an embassy, you're going to have to get a response. And it was almost 2 weeks until it happened. So the Israelis were really sweating it. And, so was I. So were a lot of people because, this is this going to be World War III? Is this the beginning of the end? This could get out of control really, really quickly. Now, Israel says that it was a great victory for them and they repelled this attack. And Iran basically says that it was a great victory for them and that they did everything that they were intending to do. So, what really happened? Well, hundreds of drones were launched at Israel from Iran. And the Shahid drone, which some of you will be familiar with because it has been used by the Russians in the Ukraine war, it is very slow. Moves like a fast car. So it takes 7 to 8 hours to go from Iran to Israel. That gave the Israelis and their allies plenty of time to be prepared and have their response ready. And basically, after their embassy was struck, Iran notified the UN right away. And they said, we have been attacked and we have the right under international law to retaliate. As a member state of the United Nations, we are doing our duty and letting you know that that is going to happen. When their embassy was attacked, Apparently, the Israelis did not even notify their top allies. The Americans were totally taken off guard. Most likely because we would have definitely pumped the brakes on such a thing because it could be disastrous. However, the Israelis have been wanting to escalate and they keep doing more and more outrageous things and they want to draw the United States into a war with Iran. I mean, they want Iran fought and they can't do it, so they want us to do it on their behalf. And they've been trying to do that for 20 years. But this kind of attack is totally unprecedented. So, after the Israelis um, had this attack launched at them, Iran then made a statement and said, "We were attacked, we have retaliated, and this can be the end of it." Now, will it be? I don't know. The Israelis are saying officially that there will be a response in the time and manner of their choosing. Now, this is a lot more of a restrained response than we generally hear from the Israelis, who are always super, super aggressive towards everyone. And that probably is pressure behind the scenes from the United States. We do have a lot of leverage here. Unfortunately, in the case of the genocide, Biden's just not very motivated to do anything. But dragging the U.S. into a war is a completely another level as far as U.S. involvement. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the attack. So, the way it worked is these hundreds of drones were launched. It takes a long time for them to get there. And the Israelis have the Iron Dome, which is a very, strong air defense system. So most of these things were knocked down. Was nearly everything knocked down with very little damage? I don't know. It seems unlikely. There have been posts on social media, and you can see some things did hit, and there were some very, very big explosions. Now, the targets the Iranians chose were very strategic. They attacked two bases. One was an intelligence base in the north of Israel that was involved in the attack on their embassy. And the other base was also directly involved. It was the Navatim Air Force Base in southern Israel. And that is where the F 35s that are based, and that is what was used to attack their embassy. So the targets made a lot of sense. Navatim is also noteworthy because it is doing something else, mainly genocide. And that is where all of these weapons that we are sending to Israel, that's where most of them are received. And consequently, where most of the airstrikes against Gaza have been coming from. So, Israelis are never good at admitting any sort of hit. So likely there was some damage. Was it as big as the Iranians are saying? It's hard to tell. But basically the way it works is when the drones come in, it overwhelms the air defense system. We saw this also on October 7th when all the Hamas rockets overwhelmed the Iron Dome and stuff started to hit. And it was launched in 3 waves because the Shahid drones are very slow. And then they launched some very old missiles, but definitely faster than drones. And then at the very end, they launched their new fast missiles. And basically everything was coordinated to kind of hit at the very same time. Now, whether or not and to what extent the damage actually happened, one thing we do know for sure is economically, that's a win for Iran. Drones are cheap. They basically are like flying weed whackers. I think they have moped engines, wooden propellers. All of these hundreds of drones cost them a couple of $1 million. The missiles that they sent, the older ones, those are also, just kind of sitting around, no big expense. But Israel spent 1.3 billion with a B dollars shooting all this stuff down. And we shall see what happens next. This is also not only the first time that Israel and Iran have attacked each other, it's the first time the United States actually was directly involved in militarily defending Israel. The United States, the UK, France, Jordan, all of these countries were helping to shoot down some of this stuff that was coming at Israel. My takeaway from this is, that actually this, as much as Israel tries to spin this as a win, the Iranians knew that most of this stuff was going to get knocked out of the sky. But they were sending a very strong message. I think this is something you are not going to hear in Western media, but I think it's really true, is that we all need to be incredibly grateful to Iran right now for being so measured in their response. Like, their hand was forced. They had to respond to such a terrible thing. Unfortunately, the United Nations didn't do anything about their embassy being struck, and that was, directly because the United States was protecting Israel at the UN like they always do. Now, if the UN was doing their job, maybe they wouldn't have been forced to do a retaliation themselves, but something had to happen. And Israel's basically like a really naughty kid who's been getting away with everything, and he's been pinching all the other kids and nothing happens, so then he punches. And Iran, they have a very advanced missile system. They really could have messed Israel up. In which case, Biden's idiot ass probably would have taken us straight into war for Israel. But by notifying ahead of time they were going to respond, doing everything by the book, and then sending, while large and impressive quantity of drones, things that they knew that could mostly be knocked down, yet also getting something through to show that Israel can be hit. That's a really, really smart. They really threaded the needle there between having to retaliate and also not insanely escalating this. So, what happens next? Well, we're all going to have to wait and see.